Welcome to the video. In this video, we are going to talk about private net. So, in the previous videos, we have covered about public net. So, basically, I will give you a small introduction. What is cloud net? Then we will jump into private net. Provides network address translation for the outbound traffic to the internet or your VPC networks or your on-prem or other cloud provider networks also. So if the traffic is going to the internet, then it is known as like public net. But if it is going to your VPC networks on-prem or other cloud providers, then we can use private net. So let's see what is private net. So before jumping into the theory, I will try to explain this theory with the help of a diagram, so you will get a better understanding. So this is the diagram which I'm going to show you. So basically, private net we can use with two options. Basically, first one is network connectivity center spokes, and other one is hybrid net. So in this, we are going to talk about NCC, and in which you can use multiple VPC network as spokes. And if you want to use, you can use it as your on-prem or your like other cloud network providers also as a spoke also. But that is a kind of different thing. I will talk about in other videos about this. But basically, in this, we are going to see how we can make a connection between two different VPC networks. So if you don't know about NCC, you can check out my previous videos. I have briefly covered about that. So in this basically diagram, we can see we have two VPCs, VPC A and VPC B. And this we have a subnet A that is 192.168.1.0, and the same subnet is here also 192.168.1.0. So basically these are overlapping subnets. And after that we have one more subnet that is 192.168.2.0. Now suppose you want to make a connection from this subnet to this subnet, and we cannot use VPC peering because VPC peering doesn't allow overlapping subnets. If you try to create a VPC peering between them, it will just fail. So what we are going to use, we are going to use NCC hub, and we are going to use some filters so that we don't share these both subnets with our NCC hub. So what we will do, first of all, suppose you want to send traffic from this VM to this VM. Basically, NCC also doesn't support overlapping subnets, so we have to, but there is an option in which we can just exclude these overlapping subnets from being shared. So when we create our spokes, we have to just exclude these subnets, this subnet also, this subnet also. But now there is a requirement that this subnet want to reach out to this subnet. So what we can do, instead of sending traffic directly from this subnet, we will include between the connection, we will introduce private net. So we have to create a private net in that VPC A. So once we create a private net, what will happen when VPC this subnet will try to reach out this subnet? Traffic will first reach out to this our private net. So this traffic will reach to this subnet private net. After that, private net also have a this private range which we have to create when we create the private net. So once traffic, so what private net will do, so traffic will come to private net. Private net will do source net. It will change the source IP to this IP range, and it will send to this subnet. So this subnet will think that traffic is coming from this specific range. So it will give a response to back to this private net range, and the private net will again send traffic back to VPC this subnet, and it will do a destination net. So what will happen? So this VPC VM so thinks that traffic is coming from this specific VM. Like this, our private net works, and we can send traffic from this subnet to any subnet that is on non-overlapping, so that is in different range. But we cannot send traffic to this specific range from this subnet because they both are overlapping subnets. So connection between these two will not work at all. And private net only support outbound traffic, so traffic can only go outside from this subnet like this, and the response packet is allowed. But if this subnet try to reach our private net or this subnet, that is not going to work. Only one side connection is allowed, that is outbound, and response packet is allowed, but new inbound connection is not allowed. So let's go back to our theory. So what, let's see what it told about. Private net allows outbound connection and inbound response to those connections. So as we see, the private net allows outbound connection like outgoing connection, and inbound response, the response is coming, that is incoming traffic, that is only allowed. And each cloud net gateway for private net performs source net on the egress side. Source net means it just changes source IP, and destination net for established response packet. So any response packet is coming, it will again change the destination net. It will change the IP again. So this VM thinks that IP is coming from this VM. And private net does not support auto mode VPC network. Only custom is allowed. Custom mode. Private net doesn't permit like inbound requests from connected networks. So if this VM try to create a new connection with this VM, that is not going to work. Only this VM is allowed to create outbound connection. This is inbound is not allowed directly. And each cloud net gateway for private net is associated with a single VPC network, a region, and a cloud router. That is a like common thing. And we cannot use private net to translate a specific primary or secondary range for a given subnet. As we know that subnet can have a primary or secondary range, so we cannot use the specific range only, like secondary range I want to use or primary range I want to use. In the private net, it will use a full subnet and it will include all the ranges. You cannot choose a specific one. And private net supports only TCP and UDP connections. So as you see, only TCP and UDP is allowed. If you try to send some like ping traffic ICMP, that is not going to work. And a virtual machine instance in a VPC network can only access destination in a non-overlapping subnet, not in overlapping. So this VM can only access destination which is in a non-overlapping. This is a non-overlapping subnet, like both are different range, but if it try to reach this subnet, that is not going to work. So let's go to console and see how it works basically, how what the issues we face. We will create NCC hub also and we see what will happen if overlapping subnet is there. I will show you my setup first. So this is my first project and this I have a VPC network, VPC first project VPC 3. So I have in the three subnets here. So this subnet is kind of overlap with my second project VPC 2. You can see I've given name as overlap subnet also. So we are going to see now what are the issues we are going to get when we are going to create a NCC hub and how with the private net we can solve that. So I am in my first project and I will click on create hub. So we can give any name. So let's call it private hub. So as we are going to use for private net, and this is the topology we are going to with mesh. So if you don't know about NCC, you can check out my previous videos. I have covered all the options which are showing here. So I'm going with my mesh topology. I will click on next step. After that, it will ask me to add a spoke. Spoke means basically a VPC network. So I have to choose my VPC. First of all, I will go by with this VPC. I will copy this name and just paste here. And I will choose the VPC network. This is the VPC network and the filters I can choose. So basically I can exclude that overlapping range as of now only. If I click on exclude and provide the overlapping range here, so we can just exclude that specific range. But I will show you what if we don't exclude, what error we get and how we can resolve that also. I have covered all these things basically previously also, but for this video I am re-showing it. After that I will click on done and just click on create my hub. So my hub has been created. Let's go inside this and let's see if we go to spokes first. So there is only one spoke as of now. And if we click on routes, so and let's select any region and we will see there are three routes which are being exported into the specific hub. So we can see that 3.0 is also being exported. So basically, if I add a new network, what will happen? It will use this specific route table to reach out to my VMs or anything that is in these specific subnets. So let's do one thing. Let's go to our this second project, and in here also I will create a spoke now. In the second project, I will click create a spoke for this specific VPC network that is in second project. So it first asks me where is my hub. So hub is my other project. I have to provide my hub ID or basically project ID, sorry. So I can copy this project ID and I have to give a hub name. So hub name is, let's go back and let's see what is the hub name. That is the private hub. I will copy this hub name and provide it here. After that, I will click on next step. It will ask me the VPC network which I want to add as a spoke. I will copy this VPC network name as of now, give us name here and I will select my VPC network. I will click on done and it will create a spoke. So basically it is just creating a spoke. It is not adding it into NCC hub. So when we create a hub, there is an option like after creating if we click on edit hub and if we go into this group option and if you click on edit, you can add like add project ID which will be auto accept your spokes. So if I add this project ID, second project ID here, in my like auto offset project, what will happen if I click like if I create any spoke in any other project, it will auto accept it in my hub. I don't have to manually accept it, but let it be like manually only. We will don't want to auto accept anything. So let's cancel this. I can see my like spoke has been created here, but it is in inactive state. So what will happen? I have to go back to my spokes here, and it will show go to details. I will go to click on this, and it will showing that I have to option whether I want to accept or reject. So your network administrator can check the configuration. If he thinks everything is all right, then he can accept. He can also see the filters. So I can see that here all private IPv4 ranges are allowed, like he's exporting. So I'm okay with that, but I know it will give me error because it is a overlapping subnets between both of spokes. So I will click on accept as of now. Let's see if what error it gives or it works or not basically. So we can see we are getting an error, like it is telling me that my second project VPC2 has a subnet that overlaps with my first project VPC3 subnet. So basically I cannot create this add this spoke into my hub. So what can I do? I will just reject this because this is a wrong spoke. Once I reject, or even if you don't reject, not an issue, just you can just come back to your NCC and just delete this spoke because this spoke is not required at all. It is creating a issue. So now what we will do, I will create a new spoke, but this time I will just like exclude that overlapping range. So my spoke has been deleted. I will come back here in other project ID this hub name is, let's go back, this is the hub name private hub. Click on next step, and again I will provide my VPC name. I will copy this VPC name, and I will choose my VPC network. This is my VPC network. I will go to under filters. I will click on exclude. I want to exclude a specific range, and this is the range which is overlapping between both of the VPC. I will put it here and just click on done. I will click on create spoke once again. Let's see now it works or not. It has been created. Now let's go back in my first project and I will go to details once again, and this time I will again try to accept this, and this time you can see also that there is one exclude range. So this range will not be advertised or will shared by my second project to my NCC hub. So I will not see this range. Let's see, we can see it is still failing. It is saying now that second project VPC2 still overlaps with the first project VPC3. So why it is happening? So basically, if suppose somehow we make it like allowed, so it is happening because of this. If we come to routes and if we see any region, we can see we have a route for like network 3.0. 3.0 net route is here. So suppose this there in this VPC, this subnet want to reach out any IP from the 3.0 subnet. Suppose this subnet range it want to reach. So it will get confused on which like subnet it wants to send the traffic. So in this specific VPC there will be two routes, one for this subnet and one for this subnet. So it will not able to correct like identify on the which subnet we want to send the traffic. So run this. So we have to exclude this network like subnet also from our VPC. So for that what we can do, we can come back, click on spokes. I am going to like delete this spoke and I will recreate it. So that has been deleted. I will click on add spokes once again. In the same project, I will select my hub, click on next. In the network, I will just give my VPC3 name. Okay, in the VPC network, I will choose my VPC3, and in the exclude one, I will just copy this specific range, and I will copy this, click on here, just click on add, done, and I will click on create. Now what will happen? Basically, I am adding this sub like VPC without this specific range, and the same I'm going to do from here also. So like this range. So what will happen? Like from both of the VPC, this range will not be exported. So this range will remain isolated, and this VPC if want to reach this 3.0, they can reach out to their own VPC range. They cannot reach like this project 3.0. Otherwise, it will create a issues and your network will can go down, and Google will not allow that simple thing. So we can see if I click on spokes, it has been added. Now I will go to details of this second one, and I will just click on accept, and let's see if this time it will accept or not. We can see it has been active now. So both the our spokes have been added here as per the diagram which we have seen here. So both the spokes are there, but these two subnetworks are not being shared. And if you click on routes now, and we can choose any route, like suppose any region, and after that we can say 3.0 is not here. So 3.0 will remain isolated in their own VPCs. So that's the first step which we have done. Now I have some VPCs, sorry, VMs are running here. So in this network, like I have this 9.0 that is running, and if I click on this 9.4, and I can see there's Apache 2 being installed on this. So now if I go to my first project, and if I try to log in into this VM which is in the same subnet, which we like this subnet 3.0, which is being not being shared, and if I click on SSH, and let's see whether I can able to make a connection or not. My VM, and if I copy this VM IP, private IP, not public IP, I will copy this private IP, and I will do a curl HTTP, and I will just click on enter. I can see traffic is not flowing, you know, that's the thing. And if I go to this VM, like this VM, checking VM, which is in a different subnet. So if I go here, this is in this subnet 1, and if I go to my hub table also, we can see that 71.0 is allowed. And if I click on this SSH, and I will create a same connection from here also, and I will see whether this works or not. So I will do a curl HTTP and the same IP, and I can see I'm getting a response from this Apache page. So basically, this specific VP like subnet 71.01, the 71.0 can reach out to 9.4, because 9.0 also is available here, but 3.0 cannot go, like 3.0 subnet cannot reach here because this subnet is not being available in the route table. So it doesn't any route to reach to this specific range, or we can say any range in this VPC. Suppose now there is a very high requirement that this subnet like 3.0 must connect to other VPCs networks, like subnets. If you come here, we can see it must connect to 4.0, 6.0, 9.0, but it will not connect 3.0 because it is a overlapping, but it must connect to these three subnets. Or maybe you have hundreds of subnets and you want that it must connect. There's a requirement. Now you cannot do anything like create like move your VMs into other project or something like that. So what you can do now, the role of private net will come. So we will create a private net, and we will see how it is going to help to create a connection. So for creating our cloud net, let's go to cloud net. This is my cloud net. I will click on get started, and after that I have to give a name. So let's give it private net, and in the net type I have to choose private. In the network I will choose my VPC, third VPC, and in the region I have to choose in which region I want to create. So my VM are running in, so this VM is running in Asia South 1, so I am going to create in this region only. I will choose my Asia South 1, so I will click on this cloud router. I have to choose, I have already a cloud router. Just if you don't have, just click on here, just give a name, that's all, and it will create a cloud router for you. And after that, here we have to choose the source endpoint. So our source is a VM or GK nodes or serverless. So our is a source is a VM. In this we have to choose which subnet I want to use. I can see like I want primary and secondary ranges for all subnets which will be in this specific region that I don't want. I want you have to choose the subnet in which your VMs are running and you want to create a connection. So I will click on custom here, and in the custom I have to choose that subnet which I want to use. This is the subnet 3.0. I will click on this. Here you can check also 3.0, and if there are multiple overlapping subnets you can choose like more IP range also, like you can just click here 71.0 also. Don't do this if it is a not overlapping, otherwise it will start also using a private net that you don't want. Only for this we want to use this. And after that we have to click add a rule, and we have to give a role number. Let's give it 100 only, and it will ask whether it's a hybrid connectivity or network connectivity center. So hybrid we don't have as of now. We are using NCC hub, it will ask us to, it is also showing which NCC hub. If it is a private hub which we have created, it will ask you to create a net IP range. You just have to click on this create subnet range. If you don't want to create from here, if you come here in here, click on add subnet, you will see there is a private net one. If you click on private net, it will going to do the same thing only. It will create a subnet for private net. You can go create directly from here also. Just click on create subnet IP range, like let's give it private net range, and we have to provide IP range here. So let's provide it 192.168.99.0/24. That's all. Click on add. So it has been added. Now we'll click on done and click on create. So we can see it has been created and it is on running state also. Now let's go back to our first project, VPC. This is my VPC. Previously it is not able to create a connection. As we can see, it is dropping. Now let's do the same run thing once again. Let's click on enter and we can see we are getting a response. And if we go to this also, this VM also has running some web server, and if we do the curl on this VM also, like let's try, we can see we are getting a response. Even my this VM also running a web server, but this is a overlap subnet, which is like 3.15. As we know, 3.0 is overlap, and here also 3.0 is kind of overlap. Let's see whether if we try to reach this VM, whether we have connection will work or not. Let's do that also. We can say it is not creating a connection. So if we go back to our PPT, we can see we can able to, like suppose this is my VM or subnet, we are able to reach this subnet and one more subnet, but we cannot reach the overlap subnet, as the it same has been written here also. We can create connection to non-overlapping subnets. So now let's see what will happen if we try to create a connection from this VMs. Let me SSH into this VM to my first project, to my this VM which is in overlapping, or we can say in the private net. I will copy this VM IP and let's see what will happen. So I am in my VM and I will do simple curl http and just paste the IP. We can see it is not giving a response. As I've told you, only outbound is allowed, inbound is not allowed. And if I come back and if I copy this 3.15 one and let's see whether this works or not, 3.15, it is giving a response because it is in the same VPC. So like this, we can see all the things what is happening. Now what I am going to do, I am going to run a TCP dump so that we can see from where the traffic is coming. So I will just start that. I will run this command, sudo TCP dump -i any port 80. I will start it now. If I go back here, so on this simple VM2, if we come to simple VM2, this is my IP 9.4, and if I go back to my first project, so let me send a connection once again. So let's click on this. We have get a response. Now let's go back here, and if we see, let's come up. We can see traffic is coming from this IP 99.2, and this is the port. And this 99.2 is what which we have used in our private net. If we come inside our private net and we can see this is our range 99.0. In the same in that we can see the traffic is coming from this range only because this is kind of overlapping. So if we send traffic, we have to use private net. So private net is sending traffic, and we can see on this simple VM2 all that, and the traffic is also going back to that also 99.2, 99.2. Like this, we can confirm that our private net has been involved in this because this VM is thinking that traffic is coming from 99.0 to, that's why it is responding it. And I have all the firewall rules which is allowing this traffic. If I don't have a firewall rule, this traffic will not work. That's a simple thing, because I am, if I go to my VM and if I go inside my VM, there is a HTTP flag which I have enabled so that HTTP traffic is allowed, like TCP traffic basically. And you can see this HTTP server. So I have just enabled HTTP traffic, this one. And one more thing, as I've told you, only TCP UDPs work. If I try to send ICMP, and let's go here, instead of sending curl, let me do a ping here, ping this. We can see ping is not working. Ping will not work at all because it doesn't support ping. But if I try to ping anything bit like in the same VPC, so this is my VM, like 3.6 is also a VM. If I copy this IP and do the ping to this IP, I can see traffic is ping will work. But if private net is worked, ping is not work, only TCP and UDP connection will work. So like this private net can be worked, and I think I've covered all the major details, and this diagram is now completed, and you see how it is working fine without an issue. Just make sure what you want to do, and just involve the private net and connect with, like, attach your private net with this right subnet from which you want to send a traffic, and then you are getting a response also. And these all things like TCP UDP connection we have seen, and destination only non-overlapping. So if there's non-overlapping subnet, it will work. If it is a overlapping, it will not work. And for the NCC hub, just exclude your overlapping subnets with the exclude filter. So I think I've covered mostly all the details. If you think you need something else, or if you need more info, just comment it down. I will drop my email ID. And I hope you like this video. Just comment if you need any help or any something. I will try to help you. Thank you very much.